What was your worst oh frick, I'm actually going to die moment? Mountain biking and I just about slipped off a 30 featuring ledge. Barely caught myself. That the most panic and complete fear I have ever felt in my life, and I never wanna feel it again. Dang. As a mountain biker, that's one of my biggest fears. Flying off a cliff gorge. I run clips, so if that did happen to happen, I probably wouldn't be able to unclip very good. I was 15 and walking across a railroad bridge over a creek when I heard the train coming from around the curve. The bridge was not wide enough to stand to the side. I ran back the way I came, as fast as I could, with the train coming from behind. The railroad ties were the perfect length for my stride. As I got near the embankment, the ties suddenly became further apart and I tripped, banging my shin, and I couldn't get back up. I crawled the last 30 feet on my hands and knees, rolling off the track at the earliest point possible. A solid 90 seconds later the train came by. I had lots more time than I feared, but I was terrified during the run. My uncle and I were swimming around a bunch of rocks at the edge of a beach one time and it was super choppy. Big mistake because it got to the point where we wanted out and we couldn't swim the way we came because the tide was ripping way too much our way. So we tried to get up on the rocks. My uncle got stuck in some fishing line that was left there and I was a bit further down. Got dumped right into a deep rock pool. High sides and I couldn't get out of it. After spending what felt like 5 minutes, but it probably wasn't, getting pushed underwater when trying to scramble onto the rocks, not reaching anything worth grabbing onto and getting cut from them because of the heavy waves. I just resorted to screaming and thinking I was probably genuinely going to drown. I didn't know what to do. Then some random guy who happened to be in the area spearfishing came up and dragged me out. Screaming was the right thing to do. It's alarming how many people drown silently when there was someone within hearing distance who might have been able to help. Note, I am not encouraging untrained people to put themselves in dangerous situations to save others. I'm just saying if you think you might be drowning, yell for help. 6 years ago I was laying in a hospital bed for 24 hours while the tests came back to tell me what kind of leukemia I had. I told my wife and my parents to go home and sleep that night. I'm very thankful for the nurse that was there when reality sunk in. She listened while I cried and said that I couldn't go yet because my wife is disabled and I have a boy that needs to go to college. Thankfully it turned out to be chronic myeloid leukemia and treatable by 1 pill per day. 90% chance to live into my 80s. I've been considered in remission since 2013. Congrats buddy. Very happy for you. I woke up and saw a huge protrusion in my ribs. I thought for sure it was a malignant tumor. Broke down then and there, only to find out later from the doctor that I had fractured my ribs and somehow not realized it. I can imagine you being reduced to a whimpering pile in front of the doctor and he was just like, nah bruh, that's just your bones. That time when we slid down that glacier face and went down and down, faster and faster until my ex's ice pick and a tree stopped us. Frick that, my ice climbing days are done. Getting prepped for a neurosurgery that could wreck me in itself. I was getting an IV of antibiotics and waiting on the anesthesiologist to put me under. My whole family was there. We were talking and trying to comfort my wife who was having a hard time with it. She's holding my hand crying. Mom and dad trying to hold it together behind her. She looks up at me and I see her go ghost white. First I thought she was going to faint. At the same point I noticed my dad run out of the room rather quickly, and that's when it started. Super cold but start pouring sweat, followed by breathing problems. My throat is swelling shut, hives everywhere, all in a matter of 45 seconds. In rushes at least 5 nurses and 3 doctors plus anesthesiologist. Doc tells me I am allergic to the IV so they have to put me out. Now, I didn't even get to tell her I loved her. I was trying to say the words but couldn't, and as the darkness crept in, it was the first time the fear of death set in. My mom died from an allergic reaction from the dye used in a CT scan. She was in the machine when her mom, who was watching in the room behind the glass, noticed her stop breathing. No one came in time. Glad you made it out okay. Something like that should never happen. I was struck by lightning. It blew me off my feet, paralyzed me and knocked me unconscious. While I was unconscious I was semi-aware, not in an awake and talking way, more of a lucid dreaming type of way, peaceful and calm. All I could see was blackness and falling stars. Kinda like the green scrolling numbers on the Matrix. Before I came to, I honestly thought that was what death was. When I was a child I wanted to bungee jump, and I had a play set in my backyard with a climbing rope. Once on the second story of the play set I got the rope that led to the ground, but I couldn't get it properly tied around my waist, so I tied it around my neck and jumped off. Luckily somehow I didn't snap my neck, but then I was left hanging there. My feet couldn't reach the ground. I remember trying to stretch my toes to reach and clawing, trying to use my hands to get some room to breathe, but I couldn't. I realized I was going to die. Luckily I had a friend over who ran inside to get my mom, and she was able to get me down, which I don't really remember. I do remember the rope burn I had around my neck for days though. Freaking kids, goddammit. Leave them outside for 15 minutes and they hang themselves. Began choking on some gummy worms at a friend's party. Everyone thought I was joking, and I was hopelessly trying to cough it out for a good minute or two before my friend karate chopped me on the back when he realized I was actually choking. I was scared crapless at the time, thought I was done for. Back in high school I worked for Arby's, fast food chain known for their thinly sliced roast beef for the non-US redditors out there. My shift was just about done. We were beginning the closing process. I was feeling a bit hungry, so I thought I'd grab a slice of roast beef off the slicer. Grabbed a larger portion than usual, but that was fine because I love the stuff. As I'm attempting to work away at this hunk of roast beef in my mouth, wouldn't you know it, ding, there's a customer at the drive-thru. As I desperately tried to get this piece of beef down my gullet, I realize I can't swallow it. I panic and try to cough it up into the garbage, but alas it won't come up either. Frick. I go into full panic mode and quickly make my way back to the sandwich prep guy who spoke very little English. I was attempting to say help and gesturing to my throat in a feeble attempt to show I was choking and needed help. Due to the fact we joked around a lot, he was certain I was just pulling a prank on him and laughed. At that moment I could have punched him in the goddamned face, but looking back I can't say I blame him one bit. Regardless, it was clear he wasn't going to be of any help, so I made my way further back while attempting to shout my manager's name. To me it was pretty clear I was trying to say her name, but what it really sounded like was deep guttural noises accompanied by a red-faced teen who had overdone it on the roast beef. She runs over in an attempt to help, but by then, my friend the sandwich prep guy figured out I was indeed not joking and actually choking. A few slaps on the back from him and me coming to the realization that I will die if I don't get this roast beef out of my throat somehow worked, and the beef landed right in the trash receptacle. Got a little talking to from my boss regarding eating on the job, but man, that was a scary 2 minutes. I couldn't stop imagining the outcomes had I actually succumbed to such a stupid and pathetic death. I thought this story was going a different direction when you mentioned the meat slicer. Back in my junkie days I was drinking heavily and doing oxycodone and noticed that I wasn't able to breathe normally and could only gasp in big gasps of air. That lasted a good long time before I could breathe again. Was pretty sure I was gonna die there. Don't do drugs. As I was upside down and everything was going in slow motion when I rolled my car. I'm still here though and had no injuries whatsoever. Wear your seatbelts, kids. I was the passenger in a car when the driver started having a seizure. His foot was on the gas pedal and the car was going faster and faster, and we were flying through a downtown area. It's a miracle we didn't hit any people or buildings. Somehow I realized after about 5 blocks to push the gear shift into neutral, auto transmission, shifter in the middle, and was then able to steer the car into a pile of snow. Driver was still seizing when the car stopped. Our daughter was in the back seat. I called 911 but gave the dispatcher the wrong cross streets in my panic. The ambulance came to 2 blocks away but I could hear it. Fortunately the dispatcher had kept me on the phone, and that's the day we found out my husband had the brain tumor that was eventually, 28 days later, fatal. Oh, I am so sorry for your loss. How traumatic. Stage 4 mouth cancer, jaw amputated, still alive, no sign of more cancer yet, almost died in first day post surgery. Fell 3 stories, due to freezing rain on the roof that night, and on the way down I was certain I was going to die. I went out there to talk on the phone since my bedroom was above my parents'. I fell at about a 45-degree angle onto my feet. The impact caused my T9 vertebrae to fracture. and once I fell from that angle to flat, my right lung collapsed and I had a brain bleed on the front and back of my brain. Luckily my father had heard me scream and found me within a couple minutes, coughing up blood into the grass. He then drove me to the hospital and nearly passed out a few times on the way there, figuring that it was already too late for me. Spent the whole ride trying to calm him down as I felt the pressure increase in my chest from the amount of blood filling my chest due to the collapsed lung. When I arrived at the hospital I blacked out as nurses and my parents and family doctor were around me looking worried sick. I grew up in rural Russia, nasty little town. Used to have gold down there, now it's drained and town has gone to crap. Elderly live on pension, youth, having not much else to do, drinks until they go crazy. Anyway, in 2008 I came there to visit parents for a week. On a third day I met a guy I used to go to school with. He invited me at his home to get drunk with his friends. I accepted. Not much to do around there as I mentioned. I got to his place and he was there with two mean looking prison tattoos, specific thug jargon, wearing leather jackets indoors. Lovely bunch. As we get progressively more drunk, one of them mentions that he has some primo weed at his place, so we all get in a car to drive to his place. I sit in the back with him. He smokes in a car, throwing ashes in an empty jewelry box that worked as an ashtray in that car. Apparently, I smoke a cig too. He offers me this box and I flick the ash into it. Suddenly he yells, "Am I your slave?" and punches me in the face. Hard. I get disoriented, trying to stop the nose bleeding, while some sort of scuffle ensues in the car. Later they told me how I fricked up. I should have taken the box from his hands and held my own ashtray, while I just flicked my ash while he was holding it, making him my B or whatever. Next thing I know, they dragged me out in the snow. It was January, and one of them yells at me, "Open the trunk." I'm completely freaking baffled by the whole thing. I look at my friend. He gives me that look, like you better do what you're asked or else. I go to the trunk, open it, and there's a Saiga shotgun laying there. "Take it and give it to me," he said. I immediately tried to make a run for it, but they caught me, pushed me to the ground. They put me on my knees. One of them grabs a shotgun, dongs it and aims it at my head. I'm thinking I don't want to die, but I stay silent and frozen. He keeps the gun to my head, and then he falls to the ground laughing his butt off, and they all do the same. After a couple of minutes of crazy laughter, they stood me up, cleaned me up from all the snow, patting me on the back saying, "We got you. We got you. You should have seen your face." Haha. Then we all get back to the car and drive to the guy who had the weed. We stayed up all night drinking and smoking weed. Once they all passed out, I snuck out and went home. I stayed at home for all the remaining 4 days and took the flight back to Moscow. Last year I learned that my friend went to prison for racket and drug trafficking. I never visited since and I don't think I will. Parents now visit me instead. They like to cuddle with their grandchildren and I like to not get my head blown off by some redneck alcoholics. The end. Got a piece of steak stuck down my throat. Needed the Heimlich, which my dad performed. Scary stuff. I finished the steak. I once started choking on some melted string cheese while alone, and a child. When the chair trick didn't work, I ended up shoving my hand into my mouth and pulling the stringy mess out. It was super uncomfortable and I think it was years before I ate a cheese stick again. I was in the ICU and the severe infection that landed me there also caused swelling of the brain. It was the worst pain I've ever experienced and I was actually wishing for death. I drank a whole house cup of straight up whiskey at once. I was born with spinal muscular atrophy type 2, so I have a really weak respiratory system. Not too long after I finished that drink I needed to cough but was quickly losing consciousness and I blacked out. As I was blacking out though, I was fully aware of what was going on and could feel myself slowly losing the ability to breathe and how painful it was. All I could think about was what was going to come next. I can't imagine how that would have felt. I've heard that drowning act would be the most peaceful way to die, but I've also heard failing to breathe and passing out is painful as frick too. They don't really go hand in hand. Glad you made it, man. Tried swimming across the Menai Strait, almost drowned, made it to the bank about 2 miles from where I started. Was a long walk home. Was constipated for 5 days. Walked up 5 floors to my room to look for meds to take when every step I took had me wanting to scream. Had to call my boss to carry me down and take me to the hospital. Remember to crap, people. I ate massive crap while shredding on my Razor scooter back in the day. The handlebars twisted so they were sticking straight up as I went down and I landed on my throat. The pain was unbelievable and I couldn't breathe for what felt like forever. I finally shook it off and was able to ride home. I never told my mom about that, fearing that she would take away my scooter. 7-year-old me was a badass. I cannot think of a better way to go out as a 7-year-old tbh. Shredding on a Razor and wiping out. You'll be school legend for years to come. Extra cred, get the Razor logo on your tombstone. Got pinned down by repeated RPG fire which probably only lasted for about 15 minutes. Sounds short, but felt like eternity. They all sounded like they were landing right on top of us and we had no cover except a roadside ditch. I was pretty sure that was it. Took a while to lose the shakes after that one. RPG fire is one of the scariest sounds ever. I was roofied at a party. Besides not being able to freaking move and vomiting uncontrollably, my blood pressure and body temp tanked. It took an hour for me to get to a hospital, and God was that bad. I genuinely thought I was going to die and came to peace with it. This was a week ago. You've been visited by the luckiest pig in the world. Comment lucky piggy below to get some of his luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.